But what was I was gonna say about uh, that I think I wanted to bring something back about, this thing I was saying, that it's a process, that things change, like the
Mhm.
activity. The activity can start to change some, and it can be that I can write a letter now to Gosha. You could write a letter to leave a boyfriend, to leave your fiance. You've already learned that you're using a real fiance. You're not making up a fiance. You're using a real fiance. You know what I mean? You're using your real guy or gal. You learned all these things. You're being specific, but it's not, it's the, what you're doing. It's that you're a good example is you're learning a song on the guitar, or to sing a song, that when you hear that song, the first three notes of that song always make you cry. That's a good advanced activity to do. You get emotional learning that song. Learn that song. Yes, you still need to be specific. You need to learn the song. You need to really do, but you're getting emotional because of what you're doing, because you're learning that song. And we call those advanced activities once you've learned how to do activities. So things kind of change. And I wonder, with like saying American or European, I think we're all, if we know if the work is really the true work of the Meisner, we're getting to the same thing, um, but there might be little different paths to get there, but it should still get to the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think our
How do
time
you
is slowly
okay.
finishing, because I just said this interview for 2 hours. Gosh, it's been
Okay.
1 hour 45 minutes. I can't believe it. But yeah, it's pretty long. So Gosha, would you like to ask Stevens something more, something else?
Maybe one question. How do you remember Sanford Meisner?
Good question. I had him when he was, you might see those videos of him teaching, and he looked like that, but he was that was in like 87 or something, 84, 85. And I had him in 91. And so he was old like that and fragile, but he was, uh, um, and he didn't, ready for this, he did that talking where he had to swallow air to make, because he was such a stubborn mother. Can you imagine? Because he had 3 operations, and the third one they had to take everything out of his throat because he wouldn't stop smoking. Can you imagine? He's
Yes,
a
I watched
teacher.
the film with him, so I can hear his voice.
Yeah, and he had to learn. So we had him when he was doing that. He had to swallow air. So, but you know what was amazing about it is it's amazing. I probably talk too much, and Meisner talked very little, and bam. You know what I mean, Judy? I mean, imagine he just said it, and he had to be short and right to the point. And so there's something nice about, yeah, I'll talk to you and I'll help you, and I talk a lot, and that can be helpful, but also it can be helpful. What we learned so bam with Sandy, he was so
Specific.
precise and direct and short. It was just bam. He would say this and say that, and he said only what he needed to say. And that's what I remember most from him, that it was unbelievable that he would just say 3 words to me, and it was right on the money. It was everything, Judy.
Oh
I
my,
know, it's crazy. Like in
incredible.
3 words, 4 words, and you're like, holy man. It was still tough, and some things you didn't understand maybe at the time, but then you got there, you learned, oh, that's what he meant. You know what I mean? But what I remember is he was so precise. I also remember he was a little more, being older that he was, and more fragile, and he had his assistant with him helping him. He was funny too. He was funny, but all the stories from when all my friends that had studied with him my directors that I worked with that stayed with him 20 years before, all the stories are about how freaking tough he was and how he wasn't the nicest guy. You know what I mean? He was really old school tough. I mean, super tough. Like, you couldn't even do that now as a teacher. You'd go to jail. You know what I mean, Judy? he would
Wow.
hit you, or he would, I mean, he would do he was old school. It was like, you know what I mean? He would kick down, get out of my class, go into the street, you're gone. I mean, every say, and I kicked people out and this and that, but I mean, he's so tough. He was. I didn't have him as tough because he was older and more fragile, but he was really on it. There were some days that if he was sick, I remember there was a day he was sick or not, and he was out of it, kind of, he couldn't. I remember him being sick one day and him not being able to teach that well. We were all like, wow, you know what I mean? Because he was older and sick. But I think he was 93 when he passed. So I had him, and that was in 97. So how old was he when I had him? I had him in 90, 91. So he
So
was 87 or something.
87 or
Yeah, he was
6, yeah.
87. Yeah. And just like, you know, a very big teacher, another amazing acting teacher, coach, director just passed away yesterday, named Wynn Handman, Wynn, Wynn Handman. He had studied with Meisner, and he studied, and in his teachings, he used Meisner, but he used different things. Like, you know, he used different, I think he used Strasberg and Meisner and different things, but he was an amazing acting teacher. He just passed away yesterday, and he's been teaching up till this last year. He's 97.
Incredible.
Yeah.
This older
I hope
generation
I
is,
teach that long.
yeah. We wish you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember him being so precise, and he was a little funny too at times, but which they said he wasn't. I think, you know, he wasn't when he was younger. He was really tough. The stories are, I've heard stories that, wow, like really tough. And, uh, you know, if I could end with telling you one story of my experience with Meisner, what happened, that I remember to this day, I'll never forget. So we're working with Meisner, and it's like our second week. It's our second week, and I get up and I'm doing a repetition with this girl in our class. And at the time, when I just got a job in New York City at the famous Tavern on the Green, very famous restaurant in Central Park called Tavern on the Green. I got a job waiting on tables. When we went to the Playhouse, they said, you're not really supposed to have a job because you're spending so much time, you know, it takes so much work. But a lot of us had a part-time job somewhere. We're living in New York City. It's so expensive. I don't even know how I did it. I don't know how I did it, you know. Yeah, obviously had to have some money saved, but I was eating tuna fish every day. That's it. Um, you know, so I got a part-time job at Tavern on the Green, this restaurant, as a waiter. Just got the job, like, you know, like 4 days ago. It's like I'm going to my 5th day at work there, you know. I'm supposed to be there at 5 o'clock because our class is supposed to end at 4. Okay. And I knew in our schedule I had class till 4 with Meisner, right? I'm up. I was the last couple to go. It was like 20 minutes till 4. And I get up and work with this actress, and we're working. It's the second week. And I must have had so many problems, Judy, you know, so many. I came from working at university, thinking everything, aware of myself, thinking, you know, I was thinking up a storm, and I was aware of myself. I'd never learned in university about actually truly letting go. You know what I mean? I was always about me, 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 me. Meisner saw that. He said, oh my, and he said, stop. You're terrible. I mean, he said, you're thinking all yourself. And I'm like, he said, try it again. Don't think, listen, to put your focus on her. And I just had so many problems, right? I was thinking and aware of myself and nervous, and I didn't know how to put my focus on the other person. And he got upset and everything. And he kept at me. I remember he was telling me, okay, try this and try this. And I also started worrying. It was 4 o'clock and we were going after 4. And I had to get to my job. But there's no way in the world that I'm going to stop and tell Sanford Meisner, Mr. Meisner, excuse me, I have to leave. Right? So I'm like, forget about it, Steve, just forget about it and try. So I had that going on. So I'm trying. This is a true story. He stopped. It was sometime after 4 where I knew I had to leave sooner. I had to get there, but I had to stop thinking about it. He stopped me from working, and he had an assistant. That's this teacher in California now. I'll never forget. And he had this assistant, and he said, "You have so many problems." He said, "You have problems." You know what I mean? I was like, and I thought, I'm the worst actor in the world, Judy. I thought my life is over. You know what I mean? I'm standing there. The other girl he wasn't talking to, the other girl did okay, whatever. He had her sit down. I'm standing in the classroom. He's looking at me, telling me, he said, "You have problems." And then I'm just standing there, and the whole class is standing there. And he, with his assistant, started talking to his assistant. They're whispering. And he looks back at me. And I'm standing there. They're talking about me. They're
Horrible.
like,
Yeah.
they're talking about me, and I'm standing there, and I think my life's over. I mean, I must be the worst actor in the world. And the class is standing there, and they keep talking different things, and they're agreeing on some things, this and that. And Meisner says to me, "Do you want to be a good actor?" That's what he says to me, in the whole class. The whole class was silent. You could hear a pin drop, and I'm standing there, my second week. Yeah. And he says, "Do you want to be a good actor?" And I remember, and started crying, I was 24 years old, and I started crying, and I said back, "Hell yes," is what I said back. I said, "Hell yes, I do." He talks. He talks back, looks at me. I'm standing there, complete silence, crying. The class is looking. He talks, and then he says, Meisner says to the assistant, "Tell him," whatever. And the assistant says, "Okay, Steven, Sandy wants you to meet privately with us, with he and I, privately over the next 2 days." And I think, my God. And okay, so you'll set it up with me. What time? We want to work with you privately for a half an hour. And he gets up, and they leave. He slowly leaves out the classroom. He's out slowly, and I'm standing there crying, thinking, I'm so bad. He's got to meet privately with me. My life is over. And soon as he got out the door, the whole class jumped up and went towards me, going, "Oh my God, you're so lucky. You get to work privately with him." And I thought my life was over. And we actually only met one time. We met one time privately, me in a room with Meisner and that guy, his assistant. And it was to show me a couple things of how I was thinking so much, and to make it real clear, alone with me. He said, "Look, you think tremendously. You went," he said, he named literally, when I was standing there in front of that group, that class, he said, he listed my life exactly. He said, "You've been acting in college." He didn't know anything. He didn't have my transcript in front of me. He said, "You've been acting in college. You've been doing this. You've been doing that." Oh my God, he called it all in the money. So then I met with him, and that one day he just helped me with a light bulb go off about how I don't need to think. You know that thing at first, Judy, that you don't need to think. So I worked with his assistant, and he showed me how, like I'll do this thing now, like the assistant will push me or something. I'll push someone on their shoulders. So if it gets tough, I'm not there to hurt anyone in class, nothing. But when someone does something to you, something real like that, you go stop it. That's all you have to do. That's acting. You understand? Notice I made a demand.
Yeah.
Not you're pushing me. See, actors that don't do demands, it's not truly instinctual. It's like me going, Gosha, it's like me going, you're hitting me. You're hitting me you're stabbing me. You're stabbing me with a knife. You're stabbing me again. You keep stabbing me. I feel bad that you're stabbing me. It's not how instincts work. He showed me that, Judy, that first day. You know, push the thing. Don't push me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or, Meisner even did
Amazing.
something with me. Like Meisner tapped me and I said, you're tapping me. He taps me again. So then I say, hey, cut it out. And then he showed me, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? He showed me, work off the person, do something. There's nothing to think. Changed my life. Changed my acting forever. And then it even changed my life that I didn't know about.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome,
I hope that
Steven.
helps you. I could talk for 10 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, it helps a
Thank you
lot.
very much.
Thank you so much, Steven. It was
Yeah.
great seeing you.
Great. Yeah, it's great to see you. Yeah.